Pro Yakyuu Family Stadium is the Famicom game that upsets me the most. Not because it's a bad game. It was easily the best console baseball game to date. The thing is, it's been 3 years since Nintendo's baseball was released. And Family Stadium was a monster hit. Over 2 million copies sold, the 9th best-selling Famicom game, and it's the game that initiates a gold rush for Famicom baseball. The sheer quantity of baseball games is one of the worst things about being a Famicom collector. I did a quick count on my collection a week or two ago. I have 21 baseball games for the system. I need another 20. And while in Japan they can't give them away, internationally, people rarely seem to list them. It's a little bit frustrating that I have to pay $7 or $8 for a baseball game, while in Japan they'd be free with another purchase. And Family Stadium is the author of that misery. If this game wasn't such an enormous success, and if Namco didn't follow it up with yearly releases that continued to sell overwhelmingly, then maybe I wouldn't have to buy so many baseball games. So what does Pro Yakyuu Family Stadium bring to the table? Well, the first thing you're going to see when starting a match is team selection. In previous baseball games, team selection meant picking what color uniform you were wearing. Here, they actually stand in for real baseball teams. I wound up playing 2 games of Family Stadium. In the first one, I went with the Hanshin Tigers, who are the baseball team from Japan that you might have heard of. And in the second, I went with the Kansai Railway team, which was actually a composite of a few teams. Then you get to pick your starting pitcher. And these are all actual players. You have 4 to choose from. Then the game starts and you have real baseball players with their own names. They have statistics. And they do perform a little bit differently based on those stats. Don't get the wrong idea though, this is still a very action-based sports game. It's just the guy who has 30 home runs is more likely to knock one out of the park. And the pitcher with the low ERA has a bit more control. But you'll still hit the ball every time if you press A right as the pitch is coming in. It's still a big improvement over the teams that consisted of nameless identical people. Another feature is that your pitcher gets tired. Over time their pitches get slower, they get a little bit sloppier with the ball, and you'll want to press start to call a timeout to swap them out with one of the other 3 pitchers in your bullpen. The game does have a fielding problem, something that I think no baseball game on the Famicom is ever going to get away from. The computer is perfectly able to position itself under any pop fly. You, on the other hand, have to make a guess based on some fuzzy context, and guiding off-screen players to where you think the ball might be. These problems go away if you play 2-player, of course. The best improvement that Family Stadium has over Nintendo's baseball is that close-up view for batting. It actually wasn't unique at that time. A few earlier games implemented something similar to it. That close-up view, zooming the action in on the pitcher and the batter, that makes baseball a much more playable sport in a video game. And this is something that everyone after Family Stadium is going to copy. This is just baseball, so I don't have a lot of gameplay details for it. There is one trick I learned, though. The AI is not the sharpest batter. If you throw a pitch tight to the inside, the batter will move back and you'll get a ball. Then throw a pitch to the outside corner of the strike zone. The batter won't shift his position enough to cover it, and you'll get a strike. And you can repeat this a few times to get an easy strikeout. Of course, once your pitcher gets tired, it becomes a lot harder to pull off. Up to this point, sports as a genre on the Famicom has been pretty limited. Just those Nintendo-published games. This is the moment when everything changes. And everyone is going to be trying to catch up with Family Stadium. It becomes a yearly series, coming out every year until the Famicom's end. But it's not like somebody in the 1980s would come up with the idea of just changing a few stats and selling the game all over again the next year, right?